Have you ever felt pressure to have it all together in your business? Like showing any sign of weakness could jeopardize your credibility or your success? Well, what if I told you that God actually designed you to build stronger relationships through your vulnerability?
Hmm.
God has equipped each one of us to let go of perfection and embrace openness so that you can create an authentic connection with everyone, with each person, not only that transforms your business, but also reflects the heart of
Oh,
Christ. You don't have to wear a mask to succeed. God didn't create you to fit into a mold of what the world says a business leader should actually look like.
mhm.
Instead, he's given you unique gifts and an identity rooted in him. So when you step into that authenticity, love that word, you
Yeah.
don't just show up differently, you actually attract the right people to you. So, in this episode of the Truth in Business Show, Mary and I are going to discuss how being yourself rather than striving to be someone else is one of the most powerful ways to build trust in your relationships. We're jumping into trust, which you know is the foundation of any authentic relationship. Building trust, though, takes time, it takes consistency, it takes integrity, and it also takes something deeper, humility. I know we're going to explore how putting others before yourself, serving them with humility, and prioritizing relationships over results will not only grow your business, but it will glorify God in the process. So join us as we discuss how vulnerability, authenticity, and trust rooted in humility are the keys to building relationships, the relationships your business needs to thrive. I'm Deneen TB.
And I'm Mary Lore. Welcome to another episode of the Truth in Business Show, where truth is God's word and business is how we serve.
Yes. And I want to let you know that for more than a decade, we've helped hundreds of women find God's calling for their business through Calling Clarity. And we would also like to help you if that's where you are. And that's why we have a free training that I'm telling you about right now. It's in the description. It's called How to Build an Impactful Business That Serves God and perfectly aligns with his design of you without first waiting for a sign from God, developing a brand, or even having a website. You'll see it again in the description. And I want you to know that it's going to inform you of how God wants you to show up in your business as uniquely you.
Yes. And before we get into today's topic about how God has equipped you to have authentic relationships, we want to remind everyone to subscribe to the channel if you're watching and ring the bell so you'll get notifications when we upload. And if you're listening, make sure you're following us, give us a 5-star rating, and please do share this episode from whichever podcast platform you're on.
Yes, yes. Well, I do love that today we get to be chatting about something that's so critical to our business adventure, relationships. Not just any relationships, but relationships that are built on vulnerability, authenticity, and trust. The kind of connections that God really has designed for you and for me, for our life and for our business. You know, God has equipped each one of us with everything that we need to really build those deep, meaningful relationships. And it could be relationships with our clients, our partners, our team
Mm-hmm.
members. It could be our community. Obviously, it is our clients. I think I said that already. But
That's okay.
there's all these types of relationships that are necessary for our success and to honor God in our businesses, right?
Right, definitely. And I think it's so important to know this ahead of time,
Mm-hmm.
to go in knowing that you're going to have to build relationships and you're going to have to be vulnerable, which is
Right.
the true key to connecting.
Oh, yes. Vulnerability is that key. And I think um, it's so uncomfortable
Yeah, of
that we don't think
course.
about it. You know, we don't think about it. In the business world, it's easy to feel like like I said in the beginning, you need to have it all together. You need
Yep.
to be perfect. You need people to see you as the go-to person.
Yes.
When in reality, I think vulnerability is one of the greatest strengths that you can possess. Isn't that what Brene Brown says, right?
Oh, yes. This is reminding me completely about our Brene Brown study and how we pulled it through the biblical perspective.
Because that's when you allow people to see you for who you truly are, your imperfections and everything, right?
Yeah,
And it's
right,
not that you have to tell everybody everything, but you have to decide, where can I be vulnerable that will help people understand that I understand them, right?
right. Yeah,
And if we look at it in a biblical perspective, I think if I think about Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, he wasn't afraid to show his vulnerability to his closest disciples. He wept, he prayed, he asked them to pray with him,
yeah,
to keep watch. And he really shared his deepest sorrow with them and his need for connection. I think that's just a wonderful thing, that we don't have to share everything with everybody, but we
right,
can have that close group. And then you can be super vulnerable there. And then the next group out to be vulnerable, especially in our businesses, um, to help guide others, our clients, whoever, because that vulnerability really does invite others in to being
right.
vulnerable themselves, right? It breaks down
Yes.
the walls of, oh, you're
You're
the icon,
you're
you're
the expert and
yeah,
right, right. But
yeah.
when you're vulnerable, you create that place for your clients or
Mhm.
your partners, colleagues, where people can be comfortable with being themselves. You can be comfortable because you have that shared connection.
Yeah, that's definitely. Um, and I think that's what's important when you are building those relationships, is that you make people comfortable with you, and because you're being comfortable with
Yeah,
them. And
right.
that really does lead to those stronger things. Think about when you're building a friendship, you reveal more and more of yourself to
Right.
that person. And so as people are getting to know you, because in business it's the know, like, trust factor, right? The vulnerability is really helping to build that, because you're being open, you're being honest with what it has taken for you to get here. We always think everybody's an overnight success when they've been
Right.
at it for 10
I
years,
know.
right?
You don't see that part.
You
Right.
don't see that
Right.
part. We forget that everyone has a journey, and we're just seeing the pinnacle of it when we finally discover them.
Right. Yeah. And it's that whole thing where you say, like when you share your journey, it's that whole thing where you say, really? Me too. You say like, wow, I know I remember meeting Deneen and she has an autoimmune disease. I do too. And it's like, really? Me too.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's a practical takeaway, is that we can't be afraid to share the journey,
It's
share the
practical.
struggles,
Yes.
because um, whether it's a failure we've experienced in our business, maybe it's a
Hmm.
lesson that we've learned,
Yeah.
or it's a challenge that we're facing. When we're vulnerable and we tell others, it resonates with
Yep.
others, right? That's, I
Yep.
think, that it makes you relatable. It makes you
Yeah.
human. It doesn't make you
Yeah.
superhuman, right? And I
Right.
think that that's the foundation of any kind of relationship, that you want to be strong, right?
Right.
And we have a tool that we use in one of our workshops. We did it, and I call it the story toolbox. And you have to decide, what stories can I tell of those experiences, lessons learned, challenges, all those things. What stories can I tell in a concise way so I can use it in my posting? I can use it in being on a podcast or on a YouTube
Right.
video, right? What can I do that I'm comfortable with? Because I know for years and years, I never told anyone I had multiple sclerosis. And the
Hmm.
first time I remember sharing that, like literally the room like gasped, and they couldn't believe that. And I was like, I'm okay. I had to reassure them. But that's something that when I opened that up, it became a whole nother level of vulnerability for people to
Yeah.
understand that I could relate to what they
Right.
were going through.
Right. And then they see you and they see like, wow, she's up there, whatever you're doing, giving a presentation
Yeah.
And it helps them to think like, whatever I'm facing, I could do something too. So
Yeah,
it's again, relatability. Yeah.
exactly.
But having
Exactly.
that toolbox and having those things thought out in advance, and not that you have to stick to the script, but having those things, it comes to you, if you have them on paper, it comes to you easily and what to
Yes.
share and when not
Yes.
to share.
I know we get tired of maybe sharing the same story, but
I know.
remember, somebody in your audience may never have heard that story yet.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be
Right.
new stories all the time.
No, no, no. And that goes to the next thing that we have, which is authenticity, being who God created you to be. How
No,
more
yeah.
authentic could you be?
I know that, and really discovering that, embracing that, because in
Yes.
today's business world, there's really a lot of pressure to conform to certain standards, to certain ways of doing things. But we have to remember that God has uniquely designed each one of us and that there's power in embracing that.
Yeah.
Because that's the way you're going to really get your ideal clients to pay attention to you, because God's already decided who they are. You just have to
Right.
be authentically you with the message that He is giving you. Then you're going to really attract them. It's
Yeah.
really about aligning with who God has called us, who Christ has called us to be, and showing up in our businesses that way, right?
Right. Yes. And it goes to from the biblical perspective in Psalm 139, we're reminded that we're fearfully and wonderfully made. And God didn't
Yes.
make a mistake when He created you. All the gifts and the talents and even quirky things are meant to shine through you and in your business.
Yeah. I mean, I think about all of those things that we've gone through, and we can say, "Oh, why did I go through that?" But
Yeah.
God's going to use it in your business in some way. It could be because you have meet someone like I met you, and we both have an
Yeah.
autoimmune disease. That was a connection point. All those things that you have are connection points for the people that you're meant to work with, whether it's a client, a team member, a business partner, networking, whatever it is. And I really think that authenticity, I think it gives you a competitive advantage because no one else can
True.
be you.
Right, right. Yeah, and you're attracting those right people. Like I think we had a client who did our experiences tool, and I don't know if I'm calling it the right thing. I can't remember, but she had gone through many things, a divorce, many things. And it's like, it's okay to be authentic when you meet that person and be like, yeah, I have gone through a divorce too. And,
hmm
just in
Exactly.
another example
Yeah,
of that
that's called
competitive
our
advantage. Overcomers.
overcomer tool, right?
Yes.
And that's how what we do in the course that we have in the community we have. We help women discover what are those things that are going to be those authentic touch points
Hmm.
that might not show up in your business, but it'll show up in a conversation. It'll
Yep.
show up in why a certain person is attracted to you, because not everyone is going to be for everyone. So
Right.
find
No.
your right people, right?
Hmm.
Um, it what I have found is when you're not authentic, what does it lead to? It leads to frustration and burnout. And
Absolutely.
that's why we go through the values that we go through, because a lot of times we're feeling like, this is just not right for me. Why do I not feel like it's right for me? Everybody says it should be. It's because it's not aligning with your values. It's not aligning with God's design of you. And
Yep.
that authenticity comes through, even if whatever volunteer thing you're doing or whatever meeting you have to do, and then you have to reevaluate, is this really what I'm supposed to be doing?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, we really need to be who we truly are, not who we think we need to be. When
Yeah.
did you learn that, Mary?
Oh my gosh. Well, it's been a process. But starting back when I did all the calling clarity, I was a client too, in the beginning and doing all the assessments and saying, okay, yeah, this is me. Yeah. So just getting that solidified in myself and just
Yeah.
accepting that that's the way God made me.
Right. I mean, I remember you telling me stories about, I thought I had to be more
Yeah.
extroverted or I had to
Oh,
insert
yeah.
myself and do all these
Yes.
things when I was in the corporate world. But how much
Yeah.
better would it have been if I was that quiet,
Oh,
consistent
I
person
know.
who just was indispensable
I
to the people
know.
I was working with?
I
That would
think
have been fine.
that would have been fine. I would have had more peace. I would have done better work. I wouldn't have been burnt out, lacking energy.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know because
Yeah.
when we work in our design, we like jump out of bed. We have that energy.
Yeah.
We're not depleting ourselves. And I think that that's not, God doesn't want us to deplete ourselves. So it makes it life a lot
No.
easier. So I think in a practical way, if you're intentionally, if you're intentional about showing your true self, that's going to be better for everything that you do. It could be in the way that you write. Don't try to write like everybody else. Don't try to copy something else. It could be really about the way you're interacting with your clients. Maybe you don't want to meet every single week or meet in person or meet one in
Right.
one. Do it the way that you're designed. It
Mm-hmm.
could be with how the way you present your brand and those kinds of things. There's so many little things where you can show your true self within your business
Yeah.
that really fulfills you, satisfies you, fills you up, because only when you're filled up can you really overflow in the right way without the stress, without the lack of energy, with all of
Yeah.
those things. So it's really important to embrace that authenticity, that so you can create that deeper trust with others because they're getting the real you.
Right. Yep. And I love how you said that's your competitive advantage. That's
Yeah. Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah. I mean, for me, my authenticity, I think, has really been able to help me with my messaging, with and really attract. And not everybody is perfect. As I'm going to say, I don't have perfect clients all the time, but I know that I have some of the best clients that do the work that I feel the most affinity with. And I know they feel the most affinity with me. So it is very important that we do that. Okay.
Yeah.
So for our listeners, for our watchers here, let me ask you to tell us some things in the comments. How are you showing up in your business with, so far we've talked about vulnerability and authenticity. How is that happening for you? What do you see how that you are doing that? And is that a concept that might scare you in some way? Have you not been showing up with vulnerability and authenticity? We would love to know what you think, and because it really, what you think would truly help you in your business relationships. Would this? Why do you think it would help you? How has God designed you to connect with those that He's called you to serve? We would love to hear in the comments. We promise we will answer you. We will chat with you. And of course, I can always chat with you, or you can watch the video of the free training. So there you go.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So that brings us to our next point, sorry, our next point, trust, which is the foundation of true, authentic relationships. So
Yeah.
let's talk about trust, Deneen. This one's another biggie.
Well, we know in our sales cycle, they have to know who you are. They have to like who you are. Ooh, there you go.
Yeah,
Authenticity right there, right?
yeah,
Know who you are, like who you are. And then they have to trust that you can do what you say you're going to do.
yeah,
Oh, so trust is really the glue that holds any
yeah.
relationship together. So
Right.
without
And with,
having the trust,
mhm.
what are we going to be?
Oh, we're going to be struggling to thrive, definitely.
Yeah,
No
because
matter how vulnerable or authentic, but we'll struggle.
exactly. We could put our heart and soul out there online, but if they don't
Yeah,
trust us, you're right. We're going to struggle. We're going to struggle
right.
because the thing is that we want everything now, and trust isn't
Yeah.
something that happens overnight.
No,
It's
right.
it's built over time. So that means you have to show up consistently. That doesn't just mean like once a week or once a day. That means as the same person every
Yeah.
single time, with integrity, with respect, all of those things. You have to always show the same person. You can't have one day you're this way and another day you're this way and then the other day you're this way. That does not build trust.
No, no. People will think like, what's going on with this person? Why is
Yeah.
one day she's this way and who is she?
Exactly. And if we're not
Yeah, or he.
consistently showing up that way in a consistent way, we have
Yeah,
to make sure if we have a newsletter that we're getting it out when we say we're going to get it out. That's the integrity part,
right.
right? If we're
Yeah,
going to come on a live, make sure you come on the live. If you're going to have a meeting, make sure you show up for the meeting.
absolutely.
All of
Yeah.
those different things.
And
I
these
mean,
are the things that we do in Calling Clarity. We really want to help our people to show consistency and integrity, to show up, to be persistent. We really we help with tools for planning,
mhm.
and we really it's very important, and it's one of our biggest values for
Exactly.
in our
Exactly.
course.
Yeah. And from a biblical perspective, we go back to Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and
Right.
lean not on your own understanding. If we're called to trust God, who is the ultimate model of faithfulness, how much more should we be striving to be trustworthy in all of our business dealings? Faithfulness, isn't that one of the gifts of the Holy
Yeah.
Spirit, right?
Right.
So
Right.
that's something that you being consistent, you showing up the same way, you showing up authentically, that builds that trust because faithfulness is part of that. You're faithful in doing what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it. So it could be delivering on all those promises that you made, that transformation that your business gives, or
Yep.
being transparent in your communication,
Yep.
maintaining integrity, even when things get difficult, you don't
Yes.
blow your lid, right?
Right.
Trust, again, is that key to any relationship, right?
Hmm. Absolutely. And it's not just about closing the deal like in business. It's about building a reputation where people know that when they work with you, they're working with someone who is honest, reliable, and faithful to their
Mm.
word.
I saw something the other day that I don't know if I think it was a quote in my journal actually. It said that, it's not about your reputation that you should really worry about, it's your character. It's your character
Hmm.
because the character is where your integrity comes, your faithfulness, your building, your honesty, all that reliability, all that stuff. It's really in your character. And if you have that in your character, your reputation can't help but go out before you. So you can't have the reputation be a facade.
Right. Exactly.
Okay, so what are some
Yeah.
practical takeaways here? I think focusing on building trust through those consistent actions, just the
Yep.
small acts of reliability, like meeting deadlines.
Yep. Keep
uh,
keeping your word,
exactly,
showing
exactly.
up.
Hmm. And really being honest and with all the thing, even when things don't go as planned, don't try to mask it. Don't try to erase it. Say, oh, this
Right.
didn't go the way I thought. Let's refocus. Let's do
Right.
something. Really, it's building that trust over the long term. Again, because you're showing up the same way every single time consistently.
Right. Yeah.
That's what's going to deepen the relationships. That's what's going to make it stronger. That's what's going to make it more fruitful. And we can see that when we go into networking and we network with the same people over time, they start to trust us more and more. We become their referral partner because we can't refer everybody if we don't trust.
Right. Yep. Definitely. You got to trust the person. It's just not about, meeting somebody and saying, "Oh, we're in this group. Okay, we'll start referring each other."
Exactly.
Can't do that.
Exactly. I can't do that.
Yeah. But we can't end this conversation without chatting about how humility plays a crucial role in these areas, vulnerability, authenticity, and trust.
I think that, humility is the foundation that really allows these other qualities to thrive in both business and in our personal relationships. So let's explore how humility ties into each one. So let's look at humility and vulnerability, which really means letting go of perfection, which could be really hard for some.
Yeah, definitely. It is. It is. It's about, admitting that you don't have all the answers and you're not perfect. You're open about your weaknesses, your failures, your struggles. And like Denise said, you don't have that, may have to maintain that facade of
Mm-hmm.
control or perfection.
Right. And again, humility in action really is acknowledging your own limitations. And we talk about that in doing our personality profiling, in that we are here to help one another. Our spiritual gifts are to help one another. We don't have all the things we need. That's why we know our limitations. We can gather people around us to help us, then we can encourage them to do the same. I think mutual vulnerability really fosters deeper, more meaningful connections, in that we aren't, I don't want to say, we're gathering people so they can help us, but we have to remember that we have things, we do things, we're good at things that other people aren't good at. And that's okay. We don't have to be prideful about it, but we have to recognize that we're there to help them as much as they're there to help
Yeah.
us. Does that make sense?
Yes, that's so good. Absolutely. Yep.
Because being humble, not telling people how humble you are, but actually being
Yeah.
humble
Right.
really makes you approachable, relatable, as we've said, and it breaks down those walls that can keep people at a distance.
Yes,
Right.
definitely.
So,
And the next one, humility and authenticity, is really about embracing who God made you. And I love this because we've been talking about this, your unique self,
mhm,
showing up, your authenticity is showing up as your true self, and that's who God made you to be.
yeah.
But it takes humility.
Oh, yes.
It's easy to fall in that trap, and I know I've done it, of trying to be someone else, especially when it feels like other people's way of doing business are more successful. Like in my
Oh,
example of extroverts seem more successful because they're
mhm,
out there talking and they're contributing so much, and I'm not. So
right.
the humility, that's humility, that when you recognize God created me this way,
Yeah.
and I have gifts and I have gifts to offer too. And when you try to imitate someone else, you're just totally hindering what God's done for you and the way
Right.
He
And
made
his
you.
plan, right? I mean,
Right.
that's why I love Galatians 6, 4, and 5. Pay careful attention to your own work, for then you will get the satisfaction of a job well done, and you won't need to compare yourself to anyone else. For
Ah,
we are each responsible for our own conduct.
absolutely.
I did not find that verse until I was in business. I never saw that verse. I love that verse.
Yeah.
And it can take us away from imposter syndrome. It can take us away from doing things the way the business world tells you to do it.
Right.
And you can operate in the way that God wants you to operate, which is humility in action. Here is operating in a place of humility so that you can confidently be authentic without feeling like you need to compete or compare. That's exactly what it is, because you
Mm-hmm.
become secure in the knowledge that God has equipped you and equipped you uniquely. And that security allows you to embrace authenticity to its fullest. I think that you can say, I can be me. Now, if you need to have some rough edges taken off because you're obnoxious or something,
Right.
that's another
Yeah.
thing.
Right.
But it also opens you up to growth, because you realize that when you're humble, you're willing to take advice, to learn from others, and you don't feel threatened when that happens. I
Right.
think our pride gets out of the way, then we can truly grow the way God wants to grow us, to transform us to be more like his son. And he's using your business to do that.
Absolutely. Yes. And another one of humility and trust is putting others first.
Mm,
Building trust requires having that selfless attitude, which of course is rooted in humility.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just about proving your worth or reliability. It's about genuine caring for others and serving them and putting their needs above your own.
Yeah, I mean, that's what Paul tells us, to not think so highly of yourself, but to put others' needs in front of you. And I think some business guru back in the day, I'm not sure which one, but he said, you know, give everyone what they want or they need first, and you will ultimately get what you need from as well. So that is just like a rule from the Bible that this business person took. And I don't know if it was, Napoleon Hill who said it first,
Yeah,
or John Maxwell, but I
right,
know it's been repeated time and time again. Humility helps you to really do this, to put others first, because it shifts your focus away from yourself to serving others. And another quote that I have here is, humility is not thinking less of yourself, it's thinking about yourself less.
right. Yes, definitely. And like you said, it's not thinking less of yourself. You're not going to be a doormat. You're not going
Right.
to get stepped all over. You still have to have appropriate boundaries,
Yeah.
but you're serving. You got to
Yeah.
remember that
Yeah.
you're serving
And you're
and
not a victim.
humbly.
You don't have a
Right.
victim
You're not a
mentality.
victim. Right. No, no, no. You're humbly serving others.
Yeah. So this
Yeah.
humility in action here, I think, really is serving, like that mindset of serving, whether you're serving your clients, your partners, your team members, that all strengthens the trust that they have for you, because you are serving. I mean, look at the disciples. Jesus served them, and they
Yeah.
they trusted him. They died for him because
Yes.
of that. You
Yeah.
become known as someone who acts with integrity, someone who prioritizes others' well-being over your own personal gain. So I think humility helps you really recognize that the relationships, they aren't just like transactional, right? Back and forth. You do this for me, I'll do this for you. But that they are deeply relational, and they have that built-in mutual respect, mutual care for one another. It helps elevate other people. When you act that way, they hopefully are going to act that way in reciprocal to you.
Hopefully. Yes. Right. Yeah. And so humility, it acts as that foundation for vulnerability, authenticity, and trust. And you need that foundation to flourish. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Without it, without all those things, the things that we've been talking about, vulnerability can really, without the humility part, vulnerability can really turn into a self-pity party. You can feel like a victim,
I know.
right?
Yes.
Authenticity can become arrogance. Oh, I'm better than somebody
I
else.
know.
That you
Ah,
need the humility to anchor that.
yes. That's such
And
a good
and
point.
trust can be compromised by your own selfish motives. So
Yes.
humility is a key to building the vulnerability correctly, the authenticity correctly, and the trust correctly to have
Mhm.
those authentic relationships.
Yeah. Yeah.
Excuse me. I think when you approach it with that humble heart, you're actually showing the character of Christ, who, as I said, exemplifies for us ultimate humility. In doing so, you can create authentic, lasting connections that honor God and serve others. So I want everybody to remember that God has already equipped you to build authentic, meaningful relationships in your business. Vulnerability allows others to see the real you, and that's where true connection begins. So by embracing authenticity, you honor the unique gifts God has given you, standing firm in your identity rather than conforming to others' expectations. And finally, trust built on a foundation of humility becomes the glue that strengthens those relationships over time.
Right.
Really, when you lead with these qualities, you not only reflect Christ in your own business, you also create, I think, I know, I've seen an environment where others feel valued,
Yeah.
respected, and seen. Your relationships grow deeper, and your business will be truly enriched. And most importantly, you'll glorify God through every connection that you make.
Yeah. And you have to keep on trusting that his design for you, for your relationships, is intentional. And watch how he uses your vulnerability, your authenticity, and trust to elevate your business in ways that you never imagined.
Yeah. Now, if you want to know more about how incorporating these things into your business will help you serve others better, again, we want to invite you to our free training, How to Build an Impactful Business That Serves God and Perfectly Aligns with His Design of You without first waiting for a sign from God, developing a brand, or even creating a website. You'll find that link down in the description so you can click on it and find out how you too can have that perfect business.
Yes. So thanks for joining us on the Truth in Business Show. If you found the episode helpful, which I hope you did, because I even did, I have to be reminded of all these things. Don't forget to share it, leave a review, and subscribe for more insights on building a God-centered business. Stay blessed and keep building authentic, lasting relationships. This is Mary Allure.
And I'm Deneen to be. Have a great rest of your day. And as always, be filled to overflowing.